Hey everybody, it is Friday, which means it is movie review day. Today's movie is Captive State, starring John Goodman and directed by Rupert Wyatt, who also directed Rise of the Planet of the Apes. Captive State is a sci-fi thriller in which aliens have conquered the world. This takes place 9 years after they've conquered the world, and the governments have ceded control over to these aliens. These aliens are running the world from massive underground structures that are impossible for humans to access. And at this point, it seems humanity has stopped trying to defeat them and instead is just trying to exist under this alien rule. In the meantime, the aliens are sucking up all of the world's resources and presumably will leave once there's nothing left of the planet. So the movie follows a terrorist cell that is trying to infiltrate a celebration and basically blow up a group of these aliens. John Goodman runs a police department and he's trying to infiltrate this cell and capture these terrorists before they're able to presumably blow these aliens up and cause a war. It's very reminiscent of a heist movie like Ocean's 11 or The Italian Job, something in that vein, except instead of a heist, it's a terrorist plot, and instead of the real world, it's set in this sci-fi post-alien invasion world. So what worked and what didn't? Starting with the acting. The acting worked for the most part pretty well. John Goodman was fantastic, and I've got to say he's looking fantastic. And the supporting cast, for the most part, pretty solid. It kind of goes between very good and very bad. Keep in mind there are a lot of supporting actors in this movie, so to narrow it down to any particular performances would be tough, but it really runs the gambit, as I said, between really good and pretty bad. But for the most part, they all did a pretty good job. I also really enjoyed the atmosphere. It's kind of modern like it is now, but different. There's just this alien feel to it without being overtly alien or futuristic, even though it is set in the future. The aliens are rarely seen. In fact, I think their screen time maybe makes up about 10 minutes of this movie. The movie is set in Chicago, and it looks and feels like today's Chicago, even though it is 9 years in the future, except there's this ever-present feeling of oppression that you kind of feel. And that mood really characterizes the entire movie. And there is some action in the movie, but the action is rare and it's secondary to the thriller plot. On the other hand, because the movie relies so heavily on the plot, it really needs to be almost perfect to work. And unfortunately, it definitely is not perfect. The biggest problem is really character motivation. I don't really know why anybody's doing what they're doing, and because there's no real backstory, I don't really care why they're doing what they're doing. Now, it does try to fill in some of the backstory at the end. I'm not going to give anything away because it relies heavily on the ending to really understand what's going on throughout the entire movie. But there isn't enough to get me invested into this. Again, the acting is very good for the most part, but not enough to draw me in over the course of an hour and a half to 2 hours. I also found myself asking a lot of questions that kind of took me out of the film. At the beginning, it was very adamant about how under the alien rule, the rich got richer and the poor got poorer, but you don't see any of that. There's no real examples of that or what rich looks like or poor looks like. There really isn't anything except poor. It seems everybody is. There's no upper class. Everybody are just slaves. Also, it seems like everybody knows that the earth is being drained of resources, but nobody is doing anything about it. It seems everyone has just kind of given up. And you'd think at this point, especially after 9 years, that somebody would continually be doing something and not attack, be suppressed, and give up. So, again, that kind of pulled me out of the movie a bit as well. And finally, there are numerous references to things happening off world. So, humans are being shipped, presumably as slaves, off world. Hunters are coming in from off world. They appear to be a different species than the legislators, who are the aliens running the government now. Yet we don't really know what's going on or what's happening up there. So ultimately, what's happening on Earth may have absolutely no effect on the overall situation. There could be trillions and trillions of aliens out there, and we don't know. So maybe the attack that's happening here doesn't mean anything. So really what I think is happening is that there's more story than this movie is able to accommodate. So to recap, the movie is well acted. Visually, it looks good when we do see alien special effects. They're done quite well, very competently, even if it is on a lower budget. And the story, for the most part, is interesting. It'll keep you going, it'll make you think. It's fairly predictable, but there's still enough there that it's engaging. On the flip side, there again is more story than there is time to tell it. And I think that's probably the biggest detriment to this. Also, there are some holes and some plot points that I think were unnecessary or really need to be filled out more. So, final verdict, it's a good movie. It's not perfect. I thought Rupert Wyatt did a good job with what he had. I think it probably could have been an excellent TV series where it had more time to kind of spend on these individual points that I thought were too condensed or missing altogether. But overall, if you're looking for something to make you think, it's kind of predictable, but still very thought-provoking, and definitely worth a watch. I'd probably give it about a 3.5 out of 5. I wouldn't see it in the theaters again, but I'd probably watch it again when it comes out on video. Have you seen Captive State? Let me know in the comments. Let me know what you thought about the movie. Let me know what you thought about the review. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Is there anything that I'm missing? And if you like the review, make sure you subscribe. You can see all of my wonderful thought-provoking content. And I will talk to you again later.